Chapter 1. The Gathering Storm. The bunker was a relic of an earlier war, its walls damp and stained with the memories of past conflicts. In the dim light, Evelyn Sinclair stood before a map-laden table, her eyes tracing the lines and symbols that depicted a Europe on the brink of transformation. The air was thick with the scent of must and cigarette smoke, a testament to the clandestine meetings that had taken place here long before she had set foot in this room. Evelyn's fingers brushed against the edge of the table as she listened to the voice emanating from the shadows. The man, known only as Mr. Blackwood, was a high-ranking official within the British intelligence agency. His presence was as much a part of the room as the maps themselves. "We have reason to believe that the hourglass is not merely a theoretical construct," Blackwood intoned, his voice a low rumble. "The Axis powers have made significant strides in its development. If deployed, it could alter the course of history irrevocably." Evelyn nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. The hourglass, a device capable of manipulating time itself, was the stuff of nightmares. Its potential to rewrite history was a threat too great to ignore. "We need you, Evelyn," Blackwood continued, stepping into the light. His face was lined with the weight of responsibility. "Your knowledge of historical patterns and your ability to see beyond the obvious make you indispensable to the Kronos Collective." Evelyn met his gaze, her expression resolute. "I'll do whatever it takes," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. The loss of her family during a Nazi bombing raid had left scars that ran deep, fueling her desire for vengeance against those who had brought such devastation. Blackwood nodded, satisfied with her determination. "You'll be working closely with Dr. Friedrich Adler," he said, gesturing towards a figure standing quietly in the corner. Dr. Adler stepped forward, his presence both familiar and unsettling. He was a man burdened by his past, his eyes reflecting a lifetime of regrets. Their history as mentor and student was fraught with unresolved tensions, and Evelyn felt a pang of discomfort at the thought of working alongside him once more. "Evelyn," Adler greeted her with a nod, his voice tinged with an awkward familiarity. "It's been some time." "Indeed," Evelyn replied coolly, masking her unease with practiced ease. "I trust you've been keeping well." Adler's lips curved into a wry smile, "as well as one can be in times like these." Their reunion was a delicate dance of words and silences, each aware of the other's strengths and flaws. Despite their shared history, there was an unspoken understanding that their alliance was one born of necessity rather than choice. "The hourglass must be dismantled," Adler stated, his tone firm. "Its very existence threatens everything we hold dear." Evelyn nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then we have no time to waste." As they spoke, the weight of their mission settled over them like a shroud. The stakes were higher than they had ever imagined, and failure was not an option. "There's something else you should know," Blackwood interjected, his voice grave. "The Axis powers have already deployed agents throughout Europe to protect the Hourglass project. You'll need to navigate a landscape riddled with spies and double agents." Evelyn's mind raced as she considered the implications. Trust would be a rare commodity in this world of shadows and secrets. "Dr. Matthias Vogel is one such individual," Blackwood continued. "A physicist whose work has been integral to the Hourglass project. We believe he may be sympathetic to our cause." "A sympathizer within their ranks?" Evelyn mused aloud, intrigued by the prospect. "That could prove invaluable." Blackwood nodded. "Indeed, but tread carefully. Vogel's loyalties are uncertain at best." Evelyn exchanged a glance with Adler, both aware that their mission would require more than just intellect and cunning. It would demand trust in one another and in those they encountered along the way, a daunting prospect given their shared history. As the meeting drew to a close, Evelyn felt a mixture of anticipation and trepidation settle over her. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but she knew that she could not turn back now. The gathering storm loomed large on the horizon, its shadow stretching across Europe like an omen of things to come. As Evelyn left the bunker, she steeled herself for the challenges that lay ahead, determined to confront not only the adversaries of the present but also the ghosts of her past. In this world where time itself was both ally and adversary, Evelyn Sinclair would need every ounce of her strength and cunning to navigate the labyrinthine corridors of war-torn Europe. The stakes could not be higher. History itself hung in the balance. With each step she took into the unknown, Evelyn carried with her the weight of countless futures and the hope that she might yet preserve them from being rewritten by those who sought to wield the hourglass's power for their own ends. As she disappeared into the night, Evelyn knew that her journey had only just begun, and that every decision she made would shape not only her destiny, but that of an entire world teetering on the brink of an unimaginable precipice. Chapter 2. Shadows in Berlin. The night air was thick with tension as Evelyn Sinclair and Dr. Friedrich Adler slipped quietly through the narrow cobblestone streets of Nazi-occupied Berlin. The city loomed around them, an oppressive fortress of fear and suspicion, where every shadow seemed to conceal a lurking threat. The swastika-clad banners flapped ominously in the cold wind, casting long shadows that danced malevolently across the facades of buildings that bore witness to an empire's dark ambitions. Evelyn adjusted the brim of her hat, her eyes scanning the street for any sign of danger. Her heart raced with the familiar thrill of stepping into enemy territory, tempered by the ever-present fear of discovery. She and Adler were operating under assumed identities, he as a visiting professor from Switzerland, she as his assistant. Their mission: to infiltrate the heart of the regime and gather intelligence on the hourglass, the temporal weapon that threatened to rewrite history itself. "Stay close," Adler whispered, his voice barely audible above the distant rumble of tanks patrolling the perimeter of the city. His presence was a strange comfort, a reminder of their shared history and the gravity of their task. Evelyn nodded, her mind focused on the mission at hand. The streets were eerily quiet, save for the occasional bark of a guard dog or the clipped footsteps of soldiers on patrol. Paranoia hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder that trust was a rare commodity in this world of secrets and lies. Their destination was a small cafe nestled in a forgotten corner of Berlin, a known meeting place for those who operated in the shadows. As they approached, Evelyn noted the flicker of candlelight through drawn curtains, a beacon in the darkness that offered both solace and danger. Inside, the cafe was dimly lit and sparsely populated. The patrons spoke in hushed tones, their conversations punctuated by nervous glances towards the door. Evelyn felt the weight of their scrutiny as she and Adler took a seat at a table near the back, their presence immediately noted by those who frequented this clandestine refuge. A waiter approached, his expression neutral as he took their order. 2 coffees, Adler requested in flawless German, his voice steady and confident. Evelyn maintained her silence, letting Adler take the lead. Her eyes roamed the room, cataloging faces and noting exits, a skill honed through years of espionage. She caught snippets of conversation here and there. Complaints about rationing, whispers of resistance movements, murmurs of discontent that hinted at cracks within the regime's seemingly unbreakable facade. Their contact arrived shortly after, a man whose nondescript appearance belied his importance to their mission. He slid into the seat opposite them with a practiced ease, his eyes betraying nothing as he assessed them. "Evelyn," he greeted her with a slight nod, acknowledging her reputation even as he withheld his own name. "Dr. Adler." Adler returned the nod, his expression carefully neutral. "We understand you have information regarding the hourglass." The man's gaze flickered briefly to Evelyn before settling on Adler. "I do," he confirmed, his voice low and measured. "But information comes at a price." Evelyn leaned forward slightly, her tone smooth and persuasive. "And what is it you seek in exchange?" The man hesitated, weighing his words carefully. "Safe passage out of Berlin for my family," he replied finally, his voice tinged with desperation, "and assurance that they will not be harmed." Evelyn exchanged a glance with Adler, understanding the gravity of his request. It was a common bargain in their line of work, information traded for lives, but one fraught with risk and uncertainty. "We can arrange it," Adler promised, his voice firm with conviction, "but we need your information first." Their contact nodded, satisfied with their response. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The hourglass is not just a weapon," he revealed, his words carrying the weight of revelation. "It's also a means of control, a way to manipulate events and ensure compliance among those who might resist." Evelyn's mind raced as she processed this new information, her thoughts a whirlwind of possibilities and implications. The hourglass was more than just a tool for rewriting history. It was a mechanism for consolidating power in ways she had not yet imagined. "And where is it being developed?" Adler pressed, eager to glean every detail that could aid their mission. The man hesitated again before answering. "In an underground facility beneath Tempelhof Airport," he disclosed reluctantly. "Access is heavily restricted. Only those with special clearance are allowed entry." Evelyn absorbed this intelligence with a sense of urgency, aware that time was slipping away even as they spoke. The stakes had never been higher. Failure meant not only personal loss, but potentially catastrophic consequences for the entire world. "Thank you," she said softly, her gratitude genuine despite the circumstances. "We'll ensure your family's safety." Their contact nodded once more before rising from his seat and disappearing into the crowd, leaving Evelyn and Adler alone with their thoughts and the enormity of what lay ahead. As they left the cafe and stepped back into the night, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. The path forward was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but she knew that she could not turn back now. Beside her, Adler walked in contemplative silence, his mind undoubtedly churning with plans and strategies for their next move. Despite their complicated history and lingering distrust, Evelyn found herself grateful for his presence, an ally who understood both the science behind the hourglass and the moral imperative driving their mission. "We have our work cut out for us," Adler remarked finally, breaking the silence that had settled between them like an unspoken pact. Evelyn nodded in agreement, her resolve hardening with each step they took deeper into enemy territory. "Then let's get started," she replied determinedly. Together, they moved through Berlin's shadowed streets with purpose and precision, their every action guided by an unwavering commitment to dismantle the hourglass before it could alter history irrevocably. As they navigated this labyrinthine world of spies and secrets where trust was scarce and danger lurked at every turn, they knew that time was both ally and adversary, a relentless force that propelled them forward even as it threatened to unravel everything they held dear. In this game, where pasts collided with futures yet unwritten, where every decision carried unimaginable weight, Evelyn Sinclair would need every ounce of her cunning intellect, and perhaps even more importantly, the strength found within unexpected alliances forged amidst shadows cast long by war's unyielding grip on humanity's collective soul. For now, as Berlin's fortress walls closed around them like sentinels guarding secrets too terrible for daylight, they pressed onward into unknown realms where history waited patiently, ready to reveal its mysteries only when those brave enough dared confront its ever-shifting tides head-on. Chapter 3. The Scientist's Dilemma. The clock on the laboratory wall ticked with relentless precision, each second a reminder of the inexorable march of time. Dr. Matthias Vogel sat at his cluttered desk, surrounded by stacks of papers and diagrams that chronicled the evolution of his work, a work he now regarded with equal parts pride and dread. His gaze drifted to the window where the grim skyline of Berlin stood silhouetted against a slate-gray sky. The city was a fortress, its oppressive architecture a constant reminder of the regime that held him in its iron grip. Matthias's thoughts were as turbulent as the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. The Hourglass Project had promised to unlock the mysteries of time, a tantalizing prospect for any scientist. Yet, as the implications of their work became clear, Matthias found himself ensnared in a moral quagmire. The device, capable of altering history itself, was no longer a scientific curiosity. It was a weapon, one that threatened to reshape the world in the image of tyranny. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing deeply. His colleagues, once driven by intellectual curiosity, now spoke in hushed tones about the strategic advantages the hourglass could provide. They were men and women he had admired. Yet their fervor for the project made them blind to its potential for destruction. Matthias felt like an outsider among them, trapped in a gilded cage of his own making. His thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. Matthias straightened, instinctively masking his inner turmoil behind a veneer of professional composure. "Enter," he called, his voice steady despite the undercurrent of anxiety that coursed through him. The door swung open to reveal Major Reinhardt, a man whose presence commanded attention with military precision. Clad in the crisp uniform of the Wehrmacht, Reinhardt was the embodiment of authority within the facility. His eyes were cold and calculating, assessing Matthias with a scrutiny that left no room for missteps. "Dr. Vogel," Reinhard greeted him with a curt nod. "I trust your work is progressing as expected." Matthias inclined his head, choosing his words with care. "Yes, Major. We are on schedule to conduct further tests within the week." Reinhard stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "Excellent. The Führer is most interested in our progress. He believes the hourglass will cement our dominance for generations." Matthias managed a tight smile, suppressing the unease that gnawed at him. "It is indeed an ambitious undertaking." The Major's expression softened slightly, though his eyes remained watchful. "You must understand, Doctor, that your contributions are invaluable to our cause." Matthias nodded, aware that any hint of dissent could prove disastrous. "I am honored to serve," he replied, the words bitter on his tongue. Reinhardt seemed satisfied with this response and turned to leave. "Carry on with your work," he instructed before exiting the room, leaving Matthias alone once more. The door clicked shut, and Matthias exhaled slowly, his facade crumbling as soon as he was out of sight. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling as if searching for answers among its cracks. He was trapped in a web of his own making, a brilliant mind ensnared by the very knowledge he had sought to expand. The ethical implications of the hourglass weighed heavily on him, yet he was powerless to halt its momentum without risking everything. As he pondered his next move, Matthias's thoughts turned to Evelyn Sinclair and Dr. Friedrich Adler, the Allied operatives who had infiltrated Berlin under assumed identities. Their mission was fraught with danger, yet they represented hope, a chance to dismantle the hourglass before it could be unleashed upon the world. Matthias had met Evelyn only once during a clandestine meeting arranged by mutual contacts within the resistance. Her reputation preceded her. She was as enigmatic as she was brilliant, her motives shrouded in personal vendetta and professional duty. Yet there was something in her eyes, a determination tempered by grief, that resonated with him. He reached for a small notebook hidden beneath a stack of papers, its pages filled with hastily scribbled notes on the hourglass's vulnerabilities. It was a lifeline to those who sought to dismantle what he had helped create, a testament to his silent rebellion against a regime that demanded absolute loyalty. Matthias knew that every piece of information he passed along put him at greater risk of discovery. The consequences would be dire, not just for him but for those he sought to protect from afar. Yet he could not stand idly by while his work threatened to unravel the fabric of history itself. His decision made, Matthias rose from his chair and crossed to the window once more. The city stretched out before him, a sprawling testament to human ambition and folly alike. In that moment, he resolved to act, to aid Evelyn and Adler in their quest, even if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear. As night fell over Berlin and shadows crept across its streets like specters from another time, Matthias Vogel prepared himself for what lay ahead, a journey fraught with peril but driven by an unwavering commitment to right the wrongs born of scientific hubris. In this world where time itself hung precariously between pasts yet written and futures still unfolding, where every decision carried unimaginable weight, Dr. Matthias Vogel would play his part in shaping history's course anew. For now, as darkness enveloped both cityscape and soul alike, he stood ready to face whatever challenges awaited him in pursuit of redemption through action rather than words alone. Chapter 4. Web of Deceit. Evelyn Sinclair adjusted her coat against the chill of the Berlin night, her breath misting in the air as she navigated the labyrinthine streets. The city was alive with tension, each corner a potential trap, each shadow a possible threat. She was acutely aware of the eyes that followed her movements, real or imagined, and the weight of her mission pressed heavily upon her shoulders. The hourglass loomed large in her thoughts, a specter of unimaginable consequence. The cafe she approached was nondescript, a relic from another era that had been repurposed for clandestine meetings. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with smoke and whispered conversations. Evelyn scanned the room, noting familiar faces and potential threats. Her mind catalogued details with the precision of a historian and the wariness of a spy. As she settled into a corner booth, she spotted Dr. Friedrich Adler entering the cafe. His presence was both reassuring and unsettling, a reminder of their shared history and the unspoken tensions that lay between them. He moved through the room with measured steps, his eyes briefly meeting hers before he joined her at the table. "Evelyn!" Adler greeted her with a nod, his voice carrying the weight of their mission and the burdens of his past. "Friedrich," she replied, offering a tight smile. "I trust you have news?" Adler leaned forward, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Our contact has confirmed increased security around Tempelhof Airport. Accessing the facility will be more challenging than we anticipated." Evelyn absorbed this information, her mind racing through possibilities and contingencies. "We need a diversion," she mused aloud, her thoughts drifting to the network of resistance fighters who operated in the shadows. Adler nodded in agreement, his expression thoughtful. "I've been in touch with Matthias Vogel. He's willing to provide us with technical details that could aid our infiltration." The mention of Matthias brought a flicker of hope to Evelyn's eyes. The physicist was a reluctant ally, his moral struggle adding complexity to their mission. "Can we trust him?" she asked, her voice tinged with skepticism. Adler hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Matthias is conflicted, but I believe his desire to sabotage the hourglass outweighs his fear of discovery." Evelyn considered this, weighing trust against necessity. In this world of shadows and secrets, alliances were fragile, and motives often obscured by personal vendettas and hidden agendas. She needed Matthias's expertise, but doubt lingered like a specter at the edge of her thoughts. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their contact, a woman whose sharp features and piercing gaze betrayed nothing of her intentions. She slid into the booth opposite them, her movements fluid and precise. "Evelyn Sinclair," the woman addressed her directly, her voice smooth and measured. "I understand you seek passage into Tempelhof." Evelyn met her gaze evenly, recognizing both the opportunity and danger inherent in this meeting. "I do," she confirmed, maintaining an air of calm confidence. The woman nodded, her expression inscrutable. "There are those within the regime who would prefer the hourglass remain dormant," she revealed cryptically. "They may be persuaded to assist you for a price." Evelyn's mind raced as she processed this new development. The web of deceit stretched further than she had imagined, with allies and adversaries intertwined in an intricate dance of power and survival. "What is your price?" Evelyn asked, steeling herself for whatever demands might follow. The woman's gaze flickered to Adler before returning to Evelyn. "Information," she stated simply. "Details on Allied operations that might prove advantageous." Evelyn exchanged a glance with Adler, understanding the gravity of such a request. Information was the currency of their world, its value immeasurable and its consequences far-reaching. "We'll consider your offer," Adler interjected diplomatically, buying them time to weigh their options. The woman seemed satisfied with this response, rising from her seat with an air of finality. "You know where to find me," she said before disappearing into the throng of patrons. As silence settled over their table once more, Evelyn felt the weight of their situation pressing down upon her. The path ahead was fraught with peril and uncertainty, a delicate balancing act between trust and betrayal. "We need Matthias's help," Adler reiterated, breaking the silence that had descended between them. Evelyn nodded, acknowledging both the truth and necessity of his words. Despite her reservations, she knew that their success hinged on collaboration, on forging alliances in this world where loyalty was scarce and deception reigned supreme. With renewed determination, Evelyn rose from her seat alongside Adler, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in pursuit of dismantling the hourglass before it could alter history irrevocably. Together, they stepped back into Berlin's night, a city shrouded in secrets yet ripe with possibilities, each step guided by an unwavering commitment to preserve not only their own futures but those yet unwritten by forces beyond their control. As they navigated this treacherous landscape where every decision carried unimaginable weight, where history itself hung precariously between pasts yet written and futures still unfolding, Evelyn Sinclair knew that time was both ally and adversary, a relentless force propelling them forward even as it threatened to unravel everything they held dear. In this game where pasts collided with futures yet unwritten, where every decision carried unimaginable weight, Evelyn would need every ounce of her cunning intellect, and perhaps even more importantly, the strength found within unexpected alliances forged amidst shadows cast long by war's unyielding grip on humanity's collective soul. For now. As Berlin's fortress walls closed around them like sentinels guarding secrets too terrible for daylight, they pressed onward into unknown realms where history waited patiently, ready to reveal its mysteries only when those brave enough dared confront its ever-shifting tides head-on. Their journey would not be easy, but then again it never had been, and Evelyn Sinclair wouldn't have it any other way. Chapter 5. Fractured Realities. The Berlin sky was an oppressive slate gray, the clouds hanging low as if burdened by the weight of secrets they were forced to keep. Evelyn Sinclair stood on the rooftop of a nondescript building, her eyes scanning the horizon. The city sprawled beneath her like a vast, intricate web, each thread vibrating with tension and uncertainty. She felt the familiar pull of anxiety in her chest, a sensation she had learned to live with but never fully control. Her mind was a tumultuous sea, waves of doubt crashing against the fragile barriers she had erected to maintain her sanity. The mission weighed heavily on her, each decision carrying the potential to alter not only her fate, but the course of history itself. The hourglass loomed large in her thoughts, its presence an ever-looming specter threatening to unravel the fabric of time. She turned away from the edge, drawing in a deep breath to steady herself. The rooftop was a temporary refuge, a place where she could gather her thoughts away from the prying eyes and hidden agendas that lurked in every corner of Berlin. Yet even here, she was not alone. Evelyn, Dr. Friedrich Adler's voice broke through her reverie, grounding her in the present. He approached with cautious steps, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "Friedrich," she acknowledged, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I didn't hear you come up." Adler studied her for a moment, his gaze penetrating yet gentle. "You seem preoccupied," he observed, choosing his words with care. Evelyn shrugged, the gesture more an attempt to deflect than to dismiss. "It's hard not to be," she admitted, her voice tinged with weariness. "Everywhere I look, I see shadows of what might have been, or what could be." Adler nodded, understanding the burden she carried all too well. "The mind can be a treacherous place," he said softly, "especially when time itself is in flux." His words resonated with Evelyn, echoing the turmoil within her own thoughts. She had always prided herself on her analytical mind, her ability to see patterns where others saw only chaos. Yet now, as the boundaries between reality and illusion blurred, she found herself questioning everything she once held certain. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" she asked suddenly, the question slipping out before she could stop it. Adler's brow furrowed slightly, his own doubts mirrored in her inquiry. "I believe that dismantling the hourglass is imperative," he replied after a moment's pause, "but I also know that every action we take has consequences, some of which we cannot foresee." Evelyn nodded, appreciating his honesty even as it failed to quell the storm within her. She turned back towards the cityscape, her gaze distant and unfocused. "Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my grip on reality," she confessed quietly, "like I'm caught between past and future, unable to find my footing in either." Adler stepped closer, offering a reassuring presence amidst her disquiet. "You're not alone in this," he reminded her gently. "We face these challenges together." His words were a balm to her frayed nerves, a reminder that despite their complicated history and unspoken tensions, they shared a common purpose, a mission that transcended personal vendettas and individual fears. As they stood side by side on the rooftop, Evelyn allowed herself a moment of vulnerability, a rare concession in a world where trust was scarce and deception omnipresent. "I keep seeing them," she admitted finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "My family. In my dreams, in my waking moments. It's like they're trying to tell me something." Adler listened silently, knowing that some battles were fought within rather than without. He understood the weight of loss, how it could haunt one's every thought and action. "They're part of you," he said softly, "and perhaps their memory is what drives you forward, what gives you strength to continue." Evelyn considered his words, finding comfort in their simplicity. Her family's death during a Nazi bombing raid had left scars that ran deep, wounds that time had yet to heal. Yet their memory also fueled her resolve to see the hourglass dismantled, to ensure that no one else would suffer as they had. The sound of footsteps ascending the stairwell interrupted their conversation, drawing both their attention towards the entrance. Matthias Vogel emerged from the shadows, his expression tense and purposeful. "We need to talk," Matthias announced without preamble, his urgency cutting through any lingering introspection. Evelyn exchanged a glance with Adler before nodding for Matthias to continue. His presence was both reassuring and unsettling, a reminder of the moral complexities that underpinned their mission. "I've managed to secure access codes for the facility beneath Tempelhof Airport," Matthias revealed, his voice low and urgent. "But there's been increased surveillance. Our window of opportunity is closing fast." Evelyn absorbed this information with a renewed sense of urgency, aware that time was slipping away even as they spoke. "What about internal security?" Adler inquired, his mind already working through potential strategies. Matthias hesitated briefly before responding. "I've identified several weak points in their system, places where we can exploit vulnerabilities," he explained. "But it will require precise coordination and timing." Evelyn nodded thoughtfully, weighing their options against the risks involved. The path ahead was fraught with danger, a high-stakes game where every move carried unimaginable consequences. "We'll need all hands on deck," she concluded decisively. "This is our best chance to dismantle the hourglass before it can be deployed." Adler and Matthias exchanged glances, an unspoken agreement forming between them as they prepared for what lay ahead. As they descended from the rooftop into Berlin's labyrinthine streets once more, each step guided by an unwavering commitment to preserve not only their own futures but those yet unwritten by forces beyond their control, they knew that history hung precariously in balance, a delicate tapestry woven from threads both seen and unseen. In this world where time itself was both ally and adversary, where every decision carried unimaginable weight, Evelyn Sinclair would need every ounce of her cunning intellect, and perhaps even more importantly, the strength found within unexpected alliances forged amidst shadows cast long by war's unyielding grip on humanity's collective soul. Their journey would not be easy, but then again, it never had been, and Evelyn Sinclair wouldn't have it any other way. Chapter 6. Confronting the Past. The research facility loomed ominously against the bruised sky, its stark architecture a testament to the regime's cold efficiency. Evelyn Sinclair and Dr. Friedrich Adler crouched in the shadows, their breath mingling with the chill of the night air. The compound was heavily guarded, a fortress of secrets and lies where the hourglass was being developed, a device that threatened to unravel the very fabric of time. Evelyn's heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and dread. The mission had brought them to this point, a culmination of months of espionage, deception, and sacrifice. Yet as they prepared to infiltrate the labyrinthine corridors of the facility, she felt the weight of her past pressing down upon her, a relentless shadow that threatened to obscure her path forward. "Are you ready?" Adler's voice was a steady anchor amidst the turmoil of her thoughts, his presence both reassuring and fraught with their shared history. Evelyn nodded, forcing herself to focus on the task at hand. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, her voice carrying the steely resolve that had become her hallmark. Adler studied her for a moment, his gaze piercing yet gentle. "Remember, our objective is to dismantle the hourglass. Everything else is secondary." She met his eyes, understanding the gravity of his words. The stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. Failure was not an option. "I know," she affirmed, her determination unwavering despite the tremor of fear that coursed through her veins. Together, they moved silently towards the entrance, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth beneath them. The facility's perimeter was patrolled by stern-faced guards whose watchful eyes scanned for any sign of intrusion. Evelyn and Adler slipped past them with practiced ease, their movements guided by months of meticulous planning and preparation. Inside, the corridors stretched endlessly before them, a maze of concrete and steel that mirrored Evelyn's internal struggle. Each step echoed with the ghosts of her past, her family's tragic death during a Nazi bombing raid, the loss that had fueled her vendetta against the regime. As they navigated the facility's twisting passageways, Evelyn's mind drifted back to her last conversation with Dr. Matthias Vogel. The physicist had provided them with crucial technical details about the hourglass, information that could tip the scales in their favor. Yet his moral conflict weighed heavily on her conscience, a reminder of the fine line between ally and adversary. "We're close," Adler whispered, breaking through her reverie. He gestured towards a nondescript door at the end of the corridor, the entrance to the lab where the hourglass was housed. Evelyn nodded, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The moment of truth had arrived. They entered the lab with cautious steps, their eyes immediately drawn to the centerpiece of the room, the hourglass. It stood imposingly on a raised platform, its sleek design belying the destructive power it contained. Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine as she approached it, aware that history itself hung in the balance. Matthias was right, Adler murmured, examining the device with a scientist's eye for detail. The control panel is vulnerable. If we can access it, we might be able to disable the hourglass. Evelyn's mind raced as she considered their options. Time was running out. They needed to act swiftly if they were to succeed. As Adler set to work on the control panel, Evelyn kept watch over their surroundings, her senses attuned to every sound and movement. The lab was eerily silent, save for the hum of machinery and the distant rumble of thunder from an approaching storm. Her thoughts drifted once more to Matthias, a reluctant ally whose internal struggle mirrored her own. She recalled their pivotal conversation when he had revealed hidden truths about their shared history and the broader implications of their actions. Evelyn, Matthias had confided during one of their clandestine meetings, his voice tinged with both hope and despair. I never intended for my work to be used as a weapon. I only wanted to understand time, to unlock its mysteries for the betterment of humanity. His words had struck a chord within her, resonating with her own conflicted motivations. Despite their differing paths, they were united by a common goal, to prevent the hourglass from falling into the wrong hands. A sudden noise snapped Evelyn back to the present, a faint clatter from somewhere beyond the lab's walls. Her heart leapt into her throat as she scanned the room for any sign of intrusion. "We've got company," she warned Adler tersely, her instincts screaming danger. Adler nodded curtly, his fingers flying over the control panel in a desperate bid to complete their mission before it was too late. Evelyn drew her weapon. Her body tensed for action as footsteps approached with increasing urgency. They were out of time. The enemy was closing in. The door burst open just as Adler finished inputting the final sequence into the hourglass's controls. Guards flooded into the lab, their weapons trained on Evelyn and Adler with deadly precision. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stand still, a single moment suspended in eternity where past and future collided in a maelstrom of possibility. "Evelyn?" Adler called urgently, snapping her back into motion. "It's now or never." With no other choice but to trust in their plan, and each other, Evelyn fired at the guards while Adler executed one final command on the hourglass's control panel. The device emitted a high-pitched whine that reverberated throughout the lab, a sound that heralded both destruction and salvation as it began its shutdown sequence. As chaos erupted around them, guards shouting orders amidst flashes of gunfire, Evelyn felt an unexpected calm settle over her, like an old friend returned at last. In those fleeting moments where life hung precariously between victory and defeat, where history itself teetered on an unimaginable precipice, she understood what truly mattered. Not vengeance or redemption, but preservation, the safeguarding of futures yet unwritten by forces beyond their control. Together they fought with everything they had, two souls united by purpose, even as shadows threatened to engulf them whole. And when silence finally fell over Berlin once more, when echoes faded into memory like whispers carried away by winds long since stilled, they knew they had succeeded. The hourglass lay dormant at last, a relic from another time whose secrets would remain forever buried beneath layers upon layers upon layers. In this world where time itself was both ally and adversary, where every decision carried unimaginable weight, Evelyn Sinclair had faced her deepest fears head-on and emerged victorious. For now, as dawn broke over war-torn Europe like hope reborn anew, they pressed onward into unknown realms where history waited patiently, ready to reveal its mysteries only when those brave enough dared confront its ever-shifting tides head-on. Their journey would not be easy, but then again, it never had been, and Evelyn Sinclair wouldn't have it any other way. Chapter 7, Echoes of Tomorrow. The skies over Berlin were a brooding canvas of gray, the air charged with the electricity of an impending storm. Evelyn Sinclair stood at the precipice of the Kronos Collective's final confrontation, the weight of history pressing heavily upon her shoulders. The hourglass, a device that threatened to unravel time itself, was within their grasp, yet the path to it was fraught with peril and sacrifice. The bunker where they gathered was dimly lit, the atmosphere tense with anticipation. Maps and schematics littered the tables, their inked lines tracing the contours of a world teetering on the brink of an altered reality. Evelyn's eyes scanned the room, taking in the faces of those who had become her allies in this desperate mission. Each bore the marks of their own struggles, yet they were united by a common purpose: to dismantle the hourglass and preserve the integrity of history. Dr. Friedrich Adler stood beside her, his presence a steady anchor amidst the swirling currents of doubt and fear. His journey from reluctant scientist to committed ally had been fraught with challenges, yet here he was, ready to face whatever lay ahead. "Evelyn," Adler's voice broke through her reverie, drawing her focus back to the present. "Are you ready for this?" She nodded, steeling herself for the task at hand. "We have no choice," she replied, her voice carrying the resolve that had become her hallmark. "It's now or never." Their plan was audacious, a coordinated assault on the facility beneath Tempelhof Airport where the hourglass was housed. Dr. Matthias Vogel's defection had provided them with crucial intelligence, but Evelyn knew that even with this advantage, success was far from guaranteed. As they reviewed the final details, Evelyn's mind drifted back to her last conversation with Matthias. His inner turmoil mirrored her own, a reminder of the fine line between ally and adversary. "Do you ever question your choices?" Matthias had asked during one of their clandestine meetings, his voice tinged with both hope and despair. "Every day," Evelyn had admitted, knowing that their shared burden was one few could understand. Yet despite their doubts, they were united by a common goal: to prevent the hourglass from falling into the wrong hands. The room fell silent as Mr. Blackwood, their enigmatic leader, stepped forward to address them. His face was lined with the weight of responsibility, his presence as much a part of the mission as the maps themselves. "This is it," Blackwood began, his voice a low rumble that commanded attention. "The Axis powers are determined to protect the hourglass at all costs. We must be prepared for fierce resistance." Evelyn exchanged a glance with Adler, both aware that this confrontation would test them in ways they had never imagined. "Our objective is clear," Blackwood continued. "Dismantle the hourglass and ensure that its secrets remain buried." As he spoke, Evelyn felt a mixture of anticipation and trepidation settle over her. The stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. Failure meant not only personal loss but potentially catastrophic consequences for the entire world. "Remember," Blackwood concluded, his gaze sweeping over them like a benediction, "history is written not just by victors, but by those who dare to question its very fabric." With these words echoing in their minds, the Kronos Collective prepared to embark on their final mission, a desperate bid to preserve the integrity of time itself. As they moved through Berlin's shadowed streets towards Tempelhof Airport, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but she knew that she could not turn back now. Beside her, Adler walked in contemplative silence, his mind undoubtedly churning with plans and strategies for their next move. Despite their complicated history and lingering distrust, Evelyn found herself grateful for his presence, an ally who understood both the science behind the hourglass and the moral imperative driving their mission. The facility loomed before them like a fortress guarding secrets too terrible for daylight. Guards patrolled its perimeter with watchful eyes, their presence a constant reminder of the iron grip on power. Evelyn's heart pounded with adrenaline as they approached the entrance. Each step guided by an unwavering commitment to dismantle the hourglass before it could alter history irrevocably. Inside, the corridors stretched endlessly before them, a maze of concrete and steel that mirrored Evelyn's internal struggle. Each step echoed with the ghosts of her past, her family's tragic death during a Nazi bombing raid, the loss that had fueled her vendetta against the regime. As they navigated the facility's twisting passageways, Evelyn's mind drifted back to her pivotal conversation with Matthias Vogel. The physicist had provided them with crucial technical details about the hourglass, information that could tip the scales in their favor. Matthias was right. Adler murmured as they reached the lab where the hourglass was housed. "The control panel is vulnerable. If we can access it, we might be able to disable the hourglass." Evelyn's mind raced as she considered their options. Time was running out. They needed to act swiftly if they were to succeed. As Adler set to work on the control panel, Evelyn kept watch over their surroundings, her senses attuned to every sound and movement. The lab was eerily silent, save for the hum of machinery and the distant rumble of thunder from an approaching storm. Her thoughts drifted once more to Matthias, a reluctant ally whose internal struggle mirrored her own. She recalled their pivotal conversation when he had revealed hidden truths about their shared history and the broader implications of their actions. "Evelyn," Matthias had confided during one of their clandestine meetings, his voice tinged with both hope and despair. "I never intended for my work to be used as a weapon. I only wanted to understand time, to unlock its mysteries for the betterment of humanity." His words had struck a chord within her, resonating with her own conflicted motivations. Despite their differing paths, they were united by a common goal: to prevent the hourglass from falling into the wrong hands. A sudden noise snapped Evelyn back to the present, a faint clatter from somewhere beyond the lab's walls. Her heart leapt into her throat as she scanned the room for any sign of intrusion. "We've got company," she warned Adler tersely, her instincts screaming danger. Adler nodded curtly, his fingers flying over the control panel in a desperate bid to complete their mission before it was too late. Evelyn drew her weapon, her body tensed for action as footsteps approached with increasing urgency. They were out of time. The enemy was closing in. The door burst open just as Adler finished inputting the final sequence into the hourglass's controls. Guards flooded into the lab, their weapons trained on Evelyn and Adler with deadly precision. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stand still, a single moment suspended in eternity where past and future collided in a maelstrom of possibility. "Evelyn," Adler called urgently, snapping her back into motion. "It's now or never." With no other choice but to trust in their plan and each other, Evelyn fired at the guards while Adler executed one final command on the hourglass's control panel. The device emitted a high-pitched whine that reverberated throughout the lab, a sound that heralded both destruction and salvation as it began its shutdown sequence. As chaos erupted around them, guards shouting orders amidst flashes of gunfire, Evelyn felt an unexpected calm settle over her like an old friend returned at last. In those fleeting moments where life hung precariously between victory and defeat, where history itself teetered on an unimaginable precipice, she understood what truly mattered. Not vengeance or redemption, but preservation. The safeguarding of futures, yet unwritten by forces beyond their control. Together they fought with everything they had. Two souls united by purpose, even as shadows threatened to engulf them whole. And when silence finally fell over Berlin once more, when echoes faded into memory like whispers carried away by winds long since stilled, they knew they had succeeded. The hourglass lay dormant at last, a relic from another time whose secrets would remain forever buried beneath layers upon layers upon layers. In this world where time itself was both ally and adversary, where every decision carried unimaginable weight, Evelyn Sinclair had faced her deepest fears head-on and emerged victorious. For now, as dawn broke over war-torn Europe like hope reborn anew, they pressed onward into unknown realms where history waited patiently, ready to reveal its mysteries only when those brave enough dared confront its ever-shifting tides head-on. Their journey would not be easy, but then again it never had been, and Evelyn Sinclair wouldn't have it any other way.